I'm very pleased to be able to welcome Julia Whaipooti to come and speak to us now. Julia, as we said before, is an Aotearoa, just up the road from Turanganuiakiwa. She's the Chair of JustSpeak, a youth-led organisation advocating for change in our justice system. She's a lawyer and has worked for several years for community law, including up until recently as kaitaka wainga. She's passionate about social justice and well known for her staunch advocacy for change to address discrimination and lack of equality in our criminal justice system. O mai te paki for Julia Whaipooti.
Ko ranganui kei runga, ko papatuanoku kei raro, ko ngā tangata kei wainganui, tihei Māori ora. E ngā mana whenua o tēnei rohe, o tēnei marae, Māori ora ki a koutou, e te Human Rights Commission, ko kairanga mai nei ki a tātou I tēnei wā he mihi tēnei ki a koutou, tēnā koe Commissioner e te rangatira, e ngā manawa ora, ko piri mai nei ki te tautoko I tēnei kaupapa nui, I tēnei pō, anei a hikarangi e mihi atu ana ki a koutou, nō reira tēnā tātou katoa. Ko Waiahau, hauri tēnei ngō Ngāti Parau, I te taha o tōku māma, ko Haukāmau, ko Waihi, oku whānau, ko te whānau o tū whakiiri ora tōku hapu. I te taha o tōku pāpā, ko Whaipooti, ko Walker, ko Goldsmith, ko Fox, ko te mea, oku whānau, nō Tairawhiti, ko te hipura, ko Mangahania, ko Tutumatai, oku marae, ko Julia Amo Whaipooti tōku ingoa, nō reira tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora whānau. It's a real privilege to get to stand here tonight and get to speak with, as part of these waiini toa. I often ask myself, how do I find myself in these positions, but I'll try to use them as best I can. I am the Chair of JustSpeak, and JustSpeak is a rupu who's turning 6 years old this year, and the kaupapa is around empowering young people to speak up and speak out for change in our criminal justice system, and it's predominantly Pākehā, and the biggest issue that we see in our justice system is the mass imprisonment of Māori, and it's recognising that it's not a Māori issue, it's actually all our issues, because that's come about from colonisation, and so we all have a role to play in addressing that issue and finding the solutions. Ko Waia, ko tino hoa, ko Toko tēnā. Toko is my mate, he's also my nephew. He turns 3 in August, which is 2 months away. This is him at Te Papa earlier this year. This photo was taken of him doing what he should be able to do, which is be a kid and roam around and think of imagination spaces. But I know my brother is his father, and he's been in and out of the system since he was a rangatahi, since he was a young person. The first time, whether we want to talk about whether it's right or not, the first time he went to prison was because he had pot. And that's created a lot of barriers for him in his lifetime, and he's 10 years older than me. Toko's mum was taken by SIFs when she was 4, and they both love very much that baby, and both have structural barriers of which they need to overcome. But statistically, I know that because Toko's father's been in prison in his lifetime, Toko's 9 times more likely to end up in prison himself. Because his mum was taken by state care, that's multiplied by an immeasurable number. So I might as well pick him up and take him to Rimutaka prison right now. And that is a problem, because he hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything to deserve that. But he's standing, when we looked at those stairs and the equality and equity, he's below the bottom of the stairs. But we have whānau, and I'm there, and I will make sure that he will not be a statistic, and if he is, it'll be because he's been a haututu and he'll get a hiding from me of love, hiding of love. But that's really that's a harm. This is the biggest issue that I see in our country, because when we look at our justice system, we look at our prisons and they're half-coloured Māori. That's not okay, but we talk about it so much that it's become normal. And we talk about it when we look at the conveyor belt between SIFs or Oranga Tamariki. Let's give something a Māori name and chuck some puti in it, but let's not do anything about it to make it actually Māori-led. Or for Māori, by Māori. But I actually think for Māori, by Māori for all is actually the approach we should take in this country. When we're the client, when we get spoken about and we look at the putia that's been spent on helping us, but what is happening there when we spend $1 billion every year to house Māori in prison, $108,000 to keep someone in a bed in prison, knowing when they come out, they're going to come back in again. Imagine if we put that putia into the whānau and the communities to move forward there. Anyway, I'm losing track of my talk korero tonight. He whaipainga. Who knows who this man is? This is Moana Jackson, and I'm very, I think, hater's choice. And he wrote a report in the year I was born, which was 1988, which looked at the issues of our criminal justice system and the impact that it has on Māori. And those issues remain the same today. I stood up with him in the Waitangi Tribunal claim that was brought by Matua Tom Himupo and Ngāti Kahanunu to the Waitangi Tribunal last year, and it was around the overrepresentation of Māori in terms of reoffending. So it was a real narrow thing, because the law's a bit dumb sometimes and you've got to work around what you can when you go through the system. And I had to stand there and say, after he had spoken about constitutional change and things that need to happen, then I got up and gave my evidence and talked about how we're talking about the same issues that were raised in the report the year I was born, and now I'm 29, and we have had 2 stolen generations of our people being housed in prisons because you haven't acted on the harms that have been identified for a number of years. These aren't new issues, so why are the problems still the same and getting worse? And I think, forgive me, cut that out. I put this PowerPoint together in the 27-minute taxi ride from the airport to here, but just identifying some of the biggest issues that we see them in the criminal justice system, the targeted criminalisation of Māori, our prison expansion. So you would have heard a real proud Minister Collins, when she was the Minister of Corrections last year, announce that they're investing another $2.5 billion over 5 years to build another prison. You would have heard in the budget announcement a couple of weeks ago that they're spending 5 times more money on housing in prisons than they are on social housing. Don't get me started. And you know what the problem is that we see in the system? Is the lack of imagination and political will, the will to actually do something that substantively empowers us as a people to come up with the solutions for ourselves. You got a lot of people talking for us. You got a lot of bureaucracy writing nice words and papers, but what they're doing with, you look at the budget and look where they're putting the money, they're putting the money and keeping it the same, because where's the benefit to change that outcome? It's not okay. Although I have met with the Prime Minister in recent times, and he did say that prisons are a moral and a fiscal failure. So we have hope that we need to keep pushing in some ways. We're real practical rōpū, so we'll advocate for change, and I will help. I will show up with a policy and be like, you need to do this, but they're not going to do that when the driving seat isn't driven by us, I would say. So when we talk about the targeted criminalisation of Māori, I don't want to talk too much about the statistics, because details, why would I know that, but also again, it's about the normalisation of it. This is a crisis. If we took away if we took away Māori from our prison system, we would have one of the lowest incarceration rates in the world. Instead, we have one of the highest behind the United States, just slightly. What is going on? We have a population of 5 million, we have such rich resource, but we seem intent on making sure that our impoverished remain entrenched. And there are people who do bad things, but what we forget is that the intergenerational harm that comes from that, what we forget is that when we're talking about offenders, we're talking about victims, because we often come from the same pool of people. So our Māori, for any given offence, is 6 times more likely to be in prison than a non-Māori. Prisoners under 20 account for 65% of our prison justice system. Women prisoners, this is the one most significant change since Moana Jackson's report came out in '88. The representation of wahine Māori in women's prisons was 3%. Today, it's now 63%. Those are our mamas we're talking about. Those are our grandmamas we're talking about. And I mean, I've been in and out of prisons for mahi, and I can see that, there's different roles that our wahine have, and the mama and the pain that they have for their kids. We need to support those whānau. We need to find better solutions. 71% of our youth justice, our kids are Māori, and that's just that we're just waiting for them to graduate into the university that is our adult criminal justice system. When we look at our under 20 prisoners as well, almost 90% of them have been touched by SIFs at some point in their life. Why is the state intervening and spending so much money with such shit outcomes and then expecting to keep doing the same thing over and over again? And we sit there as a people, as a country, and think that that's okay because these people are bad. There's an us and them going on, but it's not that, and I know that that's actually not the experience, particularly for Māori in this room. Oh, sorry, I'm getting angry. I was talking about how the prison expansion, this is happening now, and how critical this is. When the announcement came, I was in an abolition hui last year, so sitting around with cool people being real like, awesome, we're going to do stuff, we're going to change the world. And then lunchtime came, and then Justice Collins dropped the bomb that, we're going to build a new prison because we have to. And I honestly had the biggest tummy in the middle of this room with all of these people, because I knew what that meant. When they say they're putting 1,800 more beds, they're putting 1,000 more Māori into our prison system, and they're putting thousands of our children without a parent and waiting to go into the system like Toko, like my mate, but that's not going to happen on my time. And just on the prison expansion issue, when we talk about there's a thinking, then there must be more people committing crimes. Our crime rate has been reducing over the last 25 years, and our prison population has grown because it's a political and legal construct. We did a report, because we do the boring things, because sometimes the boring things can impact change. Did the boring things, and when I say we, I'm like telling people, do the boring things, and then I'll read it. And there was a law change, a Bail Amendment Act change in 2012-13, and from that, we've seen our prison population grow 1,500 more people on remand. So what that means is people who either haven't been heard or they're waiting to be sentenced. So we got almost 3,000 people being held on remand. Almost half of those people will not be sentenced to a prison term, or they'll be found not guilty. And more than half of those people are Māori. And since those changes, last year we had the highest incarceration rates of Māori in our whole history. And that's not because there's more crime, that's because of stupid and dumb politics. So, there's like, I've met with the Prime Minister, I've met with the people and said, you need to do these things, or kick things. But these are easy legislative fixes. So we know that there are easy fixes. As soon as we do that, we're immediately going to relieve our remand prison population. And some of the taki from that, for example, which is so stupid, you have people who are being held on remand, being held in prisons because they might have done a low-level offence, and they'll be housing someone who's in there for 12 years, but they're there because their address is an apartment, and ankle bracelets don't work in apartments. It's got nothing to do with increasing safety, reducing victimisation. What it does do is bed more Māori in prison, hurt more whānau, increase crime, increase victimisation, because we know the earlier or you touch the prison system, the more likely you will return, and you will return again having committed a more violent offence. That's what our prisons do. They don't work. So it's not your fault. So I talked about the Waitangi Tribunal, a little bit about that. So there was a claim came from Tribunal, real stoked because we prepared some stuff and they in some places copy and pasted, which we support completely in their recommendations. But these are just like more support for things we already know. But whatever we need to do to like make chaos happen in the ministries that be, then fine. I talked about how governments make stupid decisions, crime going down, things going up. But when we talk about kaupapa Māori prisons, I just want to say, it's just a contradiction to me. So I know that's Māori coming out, and I know it comes from a good place, because we're looking for solutions for ourselves. And it also highlights that actually we need the space to have these conversations amongst ourselves, because Māori, we're not all one flavour. You know, some of us are Ngātis and some of us are other things. No, that's fine. But we can't Māorify a colonial construct. You cannot recreate our justice in an unjust institution. So, I acknowledge that the ngākau of our people who have come out and said this are coming from the right place. Well, we just need to imagine more. Talk or give your magnifying glass over. And when we talk about kaupapa Māori prisons, as part of this tribunal, the Crown, because they're stupid, took us to Rimutaka prison for a site visit to show us all the cool stuff that they're doing for Māoris. And I've been in and out of there to see clients. And to have to stand at the gate and get porphyried into a prison by tangata whenua, that hurt my heart, to have a field of Māori welcoming us as though they belong there, because they don't.
Kia ora.
And when we talk about tikanga and the value of that, it shouldn't happen within prisons. So that was part of the Crown's evidence about how, you know, they're doing some stuff. They want to hang a Tino flag in prisons, and I was like, you shut the front gate. We do not, this is not our home, don't you do that. Here's some practical things that are boring but useful. Repealing the Bail Amendment Act, boring, very, very useful. Let's aim for the stars, right? We've got to work towards what works, and we need to be setting decarceration rates. So part of the Waitangi Tribunal is that the government had set these rates up. We're going to reduce reoffending 25%. How about you reduce imprisonment by 25% as a practical measure? And besides the fact that they failed miserably on that, there was something like 11%, and then for Māori it was like 0.4%, which was like, but they tried to hide that, and then their research control for lying in the tribunal because got snapped. But this isn't vulnerable Olympics, it's about like, what are we doing for things that work? They set decarceration rates, 25% by 2022, repeal the Bail Amendment Act. We need to take this off the political agenda. It's very political, but it's not okay, because law and order is so sexy that it's real sexy to come out and say, oh, bad people are harming our communities. When you hear the stories about violent crime, which almost will always be someone Māori, or when you hear about child abuse cases, always be Māori. But you know, in real terms, more Pākehā kids die at the hands of Pākehā parents. Not that, again, it's not about vulnerable Olympics, but there's a role of how our politicians and media frame us as a people and the issues. Yes. But it's a minority of what's happening in prisons. Almost half our prisons are filled with people for drug or property related offences only. So if that's the measurement, you've got poor people who are stealing shit and doing bad stuff. Yeah, doing bad stuff. There's bad stuff attached to that. Drugs, which are harming our whānau. But is that actually a criminal thing, or is that a health? Should we be looking at how to get them out of that?
Yes.
And it might be a start to acknowledge that structural racism exists for our people in the beehive. Our police commissioner has come out and said that bias exists within our police. But you can't work towards solving a problem if you're going to pretend that it's not there and that it's sugar-coated as something else. Don't waste my time. Not you fellas, sorry. But JustSpeak, we are having a hui in Rotorua next month in July, and the whole kaupapa, when I hear people, our Māori coming out talking about kaupapa Māori prisons, I was just like, all right, we actually need a space for Māori to come together and talk about those things ourselves. Let's debate amongst it ourselves, let's create our framework ourselves, and JustSpeak is a vehicle, and it's predominantly Pākehā, but that's because this is not a Māori issue, and I will take an organisation with our organisation and get the pūtea to spend for Māori solutions on what we're up to. And I'm a volunteer now, Chair. We, as the Chair of the Board, we have 2.3 kaimahi, and then we have heaps of volunteers that are committed to this kaupapa. And I remember coming here, I was the first of my whānau to go to law school, sitting in a criminal law class, feel like I was being spoken about, feeling uncomfortable about that, and that's how I found JustSpeak, because it's like, well, what can I do? And that's why I'm here, this kaupapa. What can you do? All the tea, cups of tea. Now I know there's lots of people who drink lots of cups of tea here. When you're sitting around your whānau at the table having those conversations about it, but it's not around criminal justice, just talking about it. It's a human thing. Think about over in like Netherlands and stuff, they are shutting down prisons because their starting point is, how would you like your son or your daughter to be treated if they went to prison? The starting point is, we are inherently good people, and some of us muck up, or some of us muck up and get caught. You're more likely to get caught if you're Māori. But that doesn't take away that harm that happens, but it's just blatantly obvious that the way that we deal with this harm in our current system further marginalises Māori, is a complete black hole pūtea that we throw away. It's an economic waste of space, but it's wrong. We're hurting communities in whānau because you put the individual away, what happens to the whānau, what happens to those children?
Yeah.
And unlike our name, JustSpeak, there's that, have those cups of teas, vote. Vote whānau, and I know Māori were least likely to vote, as well as our young people. Tell your mokopuna to vote. Won't tell you who for.
Not national.
I didn't say that. I just want to say my name is Whaipooti, and Whai means to chase and Pōti means votes. And it was made when Aotearoa ran for Parliament, so I'm all about that. But that's because there is whilst we need to deconstruct the systems that harm us, we still need to have our people everywhere who are working in those spaces and to craft the space to benefit us the best that we can. Me he tēnei ki a koutou, nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou.